Hello and welcome to weekly Kashmir University Video Digest Quest. First, a look at the highlights. Professor Pratap Bhanu Mehta delivers special lecture, 4-day workshop on astronomical techniques with viral observations commences. Professor Talat delivers special lectures in ASC and DSW holds day-long seminar. Now, the details of these events with your host Muhammad Uwais. UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute of Kashmir Studies organized a special session on embattled liberalism in South Asia. Professor Pratap Bhanu Mehta of Center for Policy Research, New Delhi, delivered the special lecture. Welcoming the guests, Director UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute of Kashmir Studies, Professor Gul Muhammad Wani, presented a brief profile of the institute.
Some of the major objectives of our institute are as under: 1. To promote regional cooperation in South Asian region through group scholarships and research. B. To revisit and revive the rich cultural heritage of Kashmir. C. To provide an intellectual platform for interface among students, academics, civil society actors and policy planners. From the year 2013, that is the present year, the institute has launched MA program in Kashmir and South Asia Studies. The total intake capacity for the program is 30 students.
Governor of the state and Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Mr. Narendranath Vohra, introduced Professor Pratap to the students.
Besides being an outstanding scholar, researcher, author, analyst, Professor Mehta is the leading political and social commentator in our country. I have had the privilege of knowing him before I came here. I visited his institute several times, the Center for Policy Research. But as it happens always, after coming here, I have not had any occasion to visit the center or to meet him. But I have been very regularly reading all that he writes. It is of enormous relevance to us, whether we are located in Kashmir or in Delhi or in Chennai, because he speaks about and comments on issues of great importance.
Delivering a lecture on embattled liberalism in South Asia, President, Center for Policy Research, New Delhi, Professor Pratap said that every region is diverse. By making that diversity a political value, one is doing a fundamental mistake.
The way we began to think about diversity in South Asia, and this is true from Pakistan to Sri Lanka. Frankly, the same structure of discourse keeps repeating itself. There's great variation in institutions and actual politics, but the same structure of discourse keeps repeating itself. The way we thought of diversity somehow missed a very important question and led us into a trap that we are still struggling to overcome. What is this trap? All South Asian countries are diverse. Right? This is a fact should be celebrated, and every single region is diverse. Right? I mean, we tend to think of diversity as some kind of, regional exceptionalism. Every single region, you can't think of Kashmir without its diversity. You can't think of Bihar without its diversity of one kind or the other. This is a stipulated fact, and this is a fact that we need to celebrate, encourage, protect. Right? But somehow when we try and convert this diversity into a political value, we end up making a fundamental mistake.
Professor Pratap said that South Asia is at the cusp of a change.
South Asia is at that very delicate point where it's possible for us to make these transitions. It's beginning to happen. You can see glimmers of hope in the kinds of struggles individuals are doing, right? But the system actually has to recognize that this is the trajectory of transition we need to take, right? If we take this trajectory of transition, right, even the goal of this center, which is to promote South Asian regional cooperation, actually becomes easier. Frankly, South Asian regional cooperation is going to be impossible if each of our countries remains trapped in that old politics of identity. Because that is a trap you cannot get out of it. That's inherently destabilizing, it's inherently conflictual, and it inherently jeopardizes individual rights, freedom, and dignity, right? There is no project of regional integration in the world, including ASEAN, that has been successful without creating a common administrative culture and a common culture of values.
Later, Professor Mehta answered several queries of the students. Registrar, University of Kashmir, Professor Zafar Ahmed Rishi proposed vote of thanks. Department of Physics, in collaboration with Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, Pune, organized 4-day workshop on astronomical techniques with viral observations. The inaugural function was held in the media auditorium. Program coordinator Dr. Manzoor Ahmed Malik presented the inaugural remarks.
Pace of growth of astronomy as a science was slow until the invention of telescopes, or rather until Galileo turned the telescope first time towards the sky in 1609. Astronomy was never the same after that. Though the growth of astronomy as a science is fascinating, this history is very fascinating, but the last few decades have been particularly rewarding in terms of the numerous inventions that were made.
Coordinator IUCAA Professor Rajiv Mishra said that 4-day workshop is to let students decide what they want to do.
The main aspect of this is to help you decide. I know that many of the young people here are confused as to what to do in life. And one of the main aspects of this kind of workshop is you look at what you would be doing for the next 5-10 years. We'll give you a small excerpt of what kind of work you will be doing, why are we doing all this, and that will help you decide whether you want to come and pursue this kind of studies or not. In fact, even if you decide that, oh, this is not something which I want to do, this is not something which I like to do, at least it's an informed and understandable judgment. And then you can decide what you want to do later in life. So it's very important, I think, to take decisions on what you want to do, and we are trying to facilitate that one.
Research scientist at Astronomy Department, California Institute of Technology, USA, Dr. Ashish Mahabal told students that astronomy has a bright future.
For the first time ever, we are now in a position to do real-time astronomy. So we can get new objects, try to understand what they are, and also try to follow them up in real time. And I would like to stress that particular aspect a little bit during this workshop, because it is virtual observatory that especially enables to do that, and it is a great thing that you will be able to learn a little bit about that. Astronomy has become a bit distributed because of this, so it is no more necessary that you have to go to an observatory and do observations yourself. Now you can use survey data that sits in one place, computational facilities that sit at another location, and combine the two sitting in your lab in a meaningful way, as well as a professional astronomer can. So these particular aspects, doing things in real time, being able to do things in a distributed manner, is something that I would like to stress, and VO is what enables that.
Professor Emirates Professor Farooq Ahmed also spoke on the occasion.
I submitted a research project to the Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi in 2007 for establishing an astronomical observatory and optical astronomical facility at Gulmarg. The DST approved the project in 2008 and 9 and sanctioned 14-inch telescope with modern facility, which was imported from USA. The work is in full progress, and it is hoped that optical telescope will be functional within few months.
Vice Chancellor, University of Kashmir, Professor Talat Ahmed, while speaking on the occasion, said that as a student and research scholar, one should keep his mind open.
I would suggest that all of you should keep your mind open as a researcher, as a student, to get into new areas of research. And one of the good area that is going to develop in the university is geophysics. So earth physics, to understand because I think you already in your curricula you have earth physics, and part of it will become more practical if we start looking at the seismograms and seismometer, how it works, and then also help people in geology to understand the earthquake systematics that is happening in that state.
Department of Students' Welfare, in collaboration with Indian Institute of Public Administration, held a day-long debate. The debate was held in the Ibn Khaldun Auditorium. The topic of the debate was laws are not powerless in preventing crime against women and children. Participants from different universities and colleges participated in the debate. Vice Chancellor Professor Talat Ahmed and Inspector General of Police Mr. Abdul Ghani Mir presented certificates to the participants. Later, speaking to the audience, Dean Student Welfare Professor Nilofer Khan expressed happiness over the event.
A very thought-provoking debate which we had since morning, and believe me, the ideas which came, they were so interesting that I think who all were present here since morning from Institute of IIPA or from our university, we were all sitting in this hall and listening to the original ideas that came from our youth.
Vice Chairman, Indian Institute of Public Administration, Mr. A.M. Watali, said that laws are there, but the problem is of implementation.
It is not because of the law. It is because of certain difficulties in implementation of law. For instance, first of all comes the society. After all, a police officer sitting in the police station doesn't always get information on his own. He is not a witness anywhere. He has to get information from a member of the public, either a victim or a citizen or anybody, which he doesn't get. Usually, maybe in 1% or 2% cases, a victim volunteers to come.
IGP Mr. Abdul Ghani Mir, in his address, said that it is important to understand criminal justice system.
As all of you are aware, that the profession of crime, that's basically dominated by male. Maybe because of the brute force enjoyed by the man, or because of the patriarchal nature of our society, which has been there from thousands of years. We know that 2/3 of our population, of the population of this world, is constituted by women and children. And there is no denying the fact that there is discrimination against them.
Vice Chancellor Professor Talat Ahmed told students that many problems can be solved if society takes a firm stand.
Many of these problems that is being discussed under this debating competition will actually be solved by itself if you know you have a strong personality and you go out, when you pass out from the university, you go and influence the society. Only then things will be much better and much brighter. At least we have to start from our own house and make sure that there is no discrimination against a daughter with respect to son or mother with respect to father.
Professor S.M. Afzal Qadri proposed vote of thanks. Vice Chancellor Professor Talat Ahmed delivered a special lecture in Academic Staff College. The topic of his special lecture was on plate tectonics, rise of Himalayas and monsoons. Delivering his special lecture, Professor Talat Ahmed said that Kashmir has a potential of becoming the biggest exporters of granite.
If we develop industry of granite in future, okay, we will be the biggest supplier of granite. Jammu and Kashmir can be very, very rich. But at present, we are not really equipped to exploit these. If we exploit these, we will lose all our beauty. And at the same time, until unless we reach a stage where we can scientifically mine it and still preserve the ecosystem, only then we should start exploiting this. But you have great wealth, not at all touched. It is being underutilized. For example, the granite, if you take it to Delhi or anywhere, you cut a slab and you sell it, very expensive to put it in your drawing room or something. But in Ladakh, they are putting as fences, okay, around the house. They are just breaking and putting it in because they do not know the value.
He told participants that the oldest rock in the ocean is 200 million old.
The oldest rock on the ocean world over is just 200 million years old. 200 million years, not 200 years. So that means anything that is generated here will go back to the system in 200 million years. So you can see here things come out and then they go back inside the earth. This is known as subduction zone. So in the subduction zone, what you expect is that these cold oceanic rocks, which is now also rich in water because it has interacted with water, goes down.
After the lecture, an interactive session between the teachers representing various colleges of the valley and Vice Chancellor was also held. Eminent historian Professor Suchita Mahajan of JNU delivered a special lecture on research methodology in History Department. The lecture was attended by the research scholars of history. Dean Social Science Professor M.A. Wani was also present on the occasion. Speaking to the scholars, Professor Suchita said that oral history is popular not in India but in USA and England.
I expected that I will find it to be popular in India or in Africa, that is, or maybe South America, those countries which have still, where we don't have a very strong written tradition, or rather where there is a lot of oral traditions, oral ways of passing on, what we knowledge are still very much there. But I found that actually this method is most popular in the United Kingdom and now in America. And it started off as a movement. It was called a movement for oral history.
She said that oral history was a popular movement.
It was a movement to create and record the history, not of the elite people. That is why the socialist angle came in. These were mostly Marxist. They said, we want to record the history of those people whose voices we have not heard so far. Because history has always been written, as we know, from the side of the conqueror, not from the side of the person who is just an ordinary person. So from being socialists, and these people wanted to write mainly working class history, trade union history, etc. But then it became wider than that, community history, local history, etc.
With this, we come to the end of today's program. Watch the latest episode of Quest at our website emmrckashmir.com. Send us your suggestions at quest@emmrckashmir.com. Before I take your leave, here are a few words of wisdom. Governments want their people to see war as a drama of opposites, good and evil, them and us, victory or defeat.